Giant fans that have supported us for more than 30 years at Giant Stadium, for all those years in Yankee Stadium, and some of you even back to the Polo Grounds. This is for you. This is for you.
Listen to me. Okay. The rest of your life, man, nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
With the second pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State.
And hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Giants Guys. I'm John Fenley, and with me again is Craig Santucci from NewYorkGiantsRush.com. Craig, how are you?
I'm good. The Giants guys have positive things to talk about. We got some complaints that we were all negative a couple weeks ago.
Well, there was a lot to be negative about.
Yeah, well, now the Giants guys have some positive things to talk about at 2-2.
Correct. Last time the Giants were not or were 500 or above was the end of the 2016 season.
That was like a century ago.
Yeah, that was Ben McAdoo's last year. Oh, no, first year. Excuse me.
Yeah,
So
when we thought he
happened.
actually they thought he actually had something. He walked in and they took him to the playoffs, and we were like, okay, maybe there's something here. But here we are 3 years later. Trying to put the pieces together. And, I don't know what's in store for this team, but at 2-2, there's a lot to be positive about.
Yeah, there's a lot to be positive about because yesterday, out on the practice field, Saquon Barkley was running and cutting.
I saw some of that film, and my eyes popped out of my head.
Now, whatever happened to 4 to 8 weeks? It's only been a week. 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know if this is a Bill Belichick kind of thing. Like, don't let him see you, don't let him see you hurt, until, the game starts or he's pushing himself too hard. I don't know. I'm sure the doctors are on top of him,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to let him come back before, he's healthy. I mean, 4 weeks at the minimum. He's going to miss, another game or two.
Yep, I can see that. But I was like, we gave Vernon, or I specifically gave Vernon a lot of junk last year because he had a high ankle sprain and he missed like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously different degrees of injuries.
Yep.
And Saquon is just such a special athlete. And, he said before when it happened, he says, I'm a quick recovery guy. I heal fast.
Yeah.
So, he's willing it to happen. But you don't want him back out there until he's 100%. Because you know how that is. You're playing before you're ready to come back, you end up hurting something else.
Yeah, or you're playing a little tentative and you get lit up.
Right, and they did just fine with Wayne Gallman last week. I thought they did.
And it's a good place to start because, Wayne Gallman had a nice game. I mean, he checked all the boxes, right? He ran hard up in the hole. He caught the ball out of the backfield, got himself a touchdown early in the game.
He got 2 of them.
Yeah, I meant like just early in the game, he got that first touchdown, so he got those butterflies out of the way. All around, like what better, what kind of better expectations can you have? I mean, he delivered what you needed, like for a backup to one of the best backs, in the game. He looked good. confident, and did everything you asked of the guy. So, Gallman is a really nice addition, and it also lets you think that when Barkley does come back, that maybe Gallman gets a couple extra snaps to give Barkley a break. Yes, no. Maybe I lost you.
Am I there?
Yeah, you're here. You were gone, though, for about 15 seconds. I was saying
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had it on mute because, I think the listeners would want me to be on mute anyway. No, but they have another guy they can rely on.
Yeah.
They thought they could rely on him anyway. But we hadn't seen a lot of him in the preseason. We hadn't seen a lot of him in practice. And the Giants aren't running the ball that often. So we don't really know what he could do until they actually give him the football.
Correct. And I think now you could sit back and say, well, if Barkley gets 25 touches a game, pass and, rushing, Gallman may be able to get an extra 4 or 5 snaps just to give Barkley, rest him, not rest him, but just, give him a little bit of a breather.
Basically, in this offense, if the running backs have to catch the football, that's their main job. Because right now the Giants are only running on 35% of the snaps. I mean, there's only 5 teams that run less than they do, and they're all bad teams that are behind in a lot of games. Cincinnati, Miami, Pittsburgh's been behind a lot. The Rams can't run anymore. We've seen that. They have to throw, and they got into a shootout the other day with Tampa Bay, which gives the Giant fans a lot of encouragement, because when they played Tampa Bay was a bad team, they were told, right?
Correct.
But Tampa Bay isn't a bad team. They can rush the passer, they stop the run, and they can score.
Yeah, the knock on Tampa Bay is,
what else is there?
Is what the quarterback's going to do. Like the quarterback's hot, the quarterback's cold.
Right.
So if the quarterback has a good day, the team plays, 500 or better ball, right?
Yeah.
But if the quarterback does what the quarterback does, you got a 6-10 team.
Yeah, I think that Tampa Bay can play with anybody because they can score. I mean, Winston is not afraid to throw in the short windows. That's why he gets picked off a lot.
Exactly.
But he's also going to make some big plays. And the Rams weren't ready for that.
Well, coming full circle back to Gallman, I just wanted to finish off by saying, I kind of wanted to come back what you said a couple of weeks ago is you like running back by committee. This may allow Gallman to get more touches, give you running back by committee, and he's proven now, and we can move on, but it's proven now that he can run up in the hole and catch the ball out of the backfield. So,
right.
You kind of get what you wanted, because 2 weeks ago you were like, what, having a single feature back, those guys don't last long, they get blasted. I think this allows you.
It's easy to defend.
Correct. Yeah.
To plan for anyway.
Well, all I can hope for is that over the next 3 weeks and moving forward is you've got a back now that can take a partial load off of Barkley, and you can get a little bit more of that running back by committee or change of pace back.
Yes. That's what I like. I like to see a little mix, and they've been mixing up their plays pretty well. The Washington game was Washington was playing without a lot of guys. I mean, let's face it, they were missing a lot of guys on offense. The defense is kind of, here and there. They got a good front, but they can't defend the pass very well. And the Giants won 24-3 on what they scored on defense, so they really only scored 17 points. They probably should have scored more.
Well, listen, if you really want to get analytical about the game,
it's a division game, I know, but still, I thought they should have done better on offense.
If you get a chance, you can check out, nygiantsrush.com. One of my guys there just dropped a piece, in the feature's called The Film Room, and he analyzes something that went kind of wrong each week,
Mm-hmm.
and he does a really good job. Spiro does a really good job of talking about how Grant Haley basically lucked out. He was completely toasted on two separate plays. One is like one of the first plays of the game, and then in the second quarter again, he was completely toasted.
Are we talking about those Trey Quinn plays?
Correct, and both times Case Keenum missed them.
Yeah, he overthrew him really by a lot, and then he just overthrew him by a little on the other one.
Yeah, so right now, if the Redskins have a better QB, we might not be having this 2-2 type of conversation.
And the fact that Tampa Bay missed a field goal.
Washington.
No, the Tampa Bay game, the Giants should have lost, like we said last week, because they missed the field goal at the end. They hit that field goal, the game's over. Giants lose.
Yeah. So
we're winning, but, those two wins you have to kind of take with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
This week will be different.
Well, yeah, and it feels good to be 2-2, and we want to be positive about some stuff. Miss a field goal and some bad QB play. But there was some really good things that came out of this week, like, Dexter Lawrence had a good week. Evan Ingram had a great week. Jones had a couple really nice plays. I mean, just they're starting to mature a little bit as a team.
Yeah, I think that no one still to this day is taking Daniel Jones seriously. A lot of people in the media are, but teams like defensive coordinators are like, he's not going to run.
Yeah.
They don't have a spy on him. What's going on with that? When you have a guy like Jones who could bootleg and he's fast, he's faster than you think.
Yes.
Okay? When you look at those next-gen stats, he's running Kyler Murray speeds, Lamar Jackson speed. Those are the only two guys who run faster, and not by a lot on those plays. So when you go to next-gen stats, which is an amazing thing, they really come up with some good stuff. He's flying, and he's bigger than those guys. So, when you see a big guy like that, you have to size him up before you try to hit him.
All right, well, let's get this out of the way because if they're not working on it now, they better be working on it real soon because Daniel Jones better learn how to slide or he's not going to be the QB for long. So
right, that's the Tom Brady quote from last week, if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, the guy is literally running through linebackers and safeties, falling on his shoulder. I mean, he's either going to get lit up like a pinball machine or he's going to come down on the shoulder the wrong way. He's got to learn to slide.
He's got to give himself up, Or get out of bounds.
Yeah, well, I mean, both plays that I'm talking about were down the center of the field, right? You know what I mean? Just, scrambling for a first down, making a play, but for the love of God, slide.
Yeah, and he did the head first on that 15, 16-yard run, whatever it was.
And he landed right on his shoulder.
I know.
And if you play against a team like this week against like Minnesota, their DBs will smack you.
Yeah, they have good players at every level, the Vikings. Pro Bowlers at every level. So, you're not going to get away with that. And we'll get to the Viking game in a little bit, but let me ask you this.
Bring it.
The receivers coming back, Golden Tate.
Mm-hmm.
What does he bring? I know what he brings because I wrote about it, but what do you see in him?
So originally, I was a head scratcher that they signed him because he reminds me of Shepard in a lot of ways. Of course, he's older. And he's played on a couple teams.
And the Super Bowl team.
Correct.
Yeah.
The statistics say that, Shepard right now, I think 68, 70% or more of his receptions are from the slot.
Right.
So I don't see the Giants saying, hey, well, okay, Shep, you got to move outside. Not saying that he can't run outside. So what I see, to answer your question, is what I see is a guy that has to focus more on the outside. I see that from watching him play, he's definitely a guy who will challenge a DB. He definitely is a great yards after the catch type of receiver.
Right.
He can, force a little cover too. He definitely can force a corner to come up on him with some safety help over the top. Giants have been running a lot of clear out and underneath routes.
Yeah.
So this may open up the top of the field because we haven't seen Jones throw anything really deep yet, have we? Nothing 30 yards plus, right?
No, he's not. He hasn't been airing it out.
No. So this may give him an opportunity to air some balls out a little bit. I hope he's in shape. I'm assuming he would be, but again, I was assuming he was going to come into camp PED free too, and he didn't, right?
Right.
So I don't know what to think of him as in the player, in the current state. But looking at what he's done, his body of work, great yards after the catch guy. I mean, I don't know. He's got like 70, 80 plus catches every year. He's
averaging the last 6 years 89.2 receptions and 1,003 yards.
Yeah. So right there is he's a professional wide receiver.
Yeah.
Good at what he does. Yards after the catch. Definitely he's going to challenge a little to get a little bit of single coverage and maybe with their best corner, or definitely some safety help over the top. He should be able to let Jones throw a little deep. I just, it's got to be from the outside. I can't see Shep having 70% of his catches on the inside. I can't see Shep being all of a sudden forced outside in a dramatic way. I mean, it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. No, I agree. But in training camp, they were mixing and matching. They were taking turns in the slot. The other guy, whoever wasn't in the slot, would be on the outside. On the field at the same time, it does create a mismatch somewhere in the defense. Because then you got Ingram, who's going to split a seam somewhere. And, I still like Latimer on the outside. He's a big guy. He's really hard to cover. I mean, you could stay – corners can stay with him, but when the ball comes his way, different story. That's why you see so many offensive pass interferences on Latimer. He's very physical.
It's interesting you say that because two things that I kind of came up with after this past week is it was called back on a penalty, if you remember, but he had a great catch and run.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely faster than I thought he was. I doubt he's running a 4.4 speed, but he definitely had a great catch and got up the field. I mean, he had a good 15 extra yards after the catch.
Yeah. He
looked good in space. I'd like to see them use Lattimore a little bit more. It's going to be interesting because the guys also too, like, Fowler and Shepard the week before, Fowler this week. I was surprised that those were the guys to go. Because they needed a spot for Tate. I didn't think that they would keep, Cody?
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised at that. Like, they're still getting rid of TJ Jones. Like, they really don't see a lot of value in TJ Jones, which I don't get. And they were like hell-bent on having...
They got rid of him for now. I mean, he's probably, if he doesn't get signed and they have another injury, they'll sign him back.
Correct. But it's kind of showing you a pattern of... It's the
second
time.
2 muffs on the punts didn't help us.
Oh, yeah, the punts. Well, yeah, we could talk about that in a minute. But I'm just saying, overall, I'm a little confused why Cody has so much value.
He's a good gunner on special teams.
Over Fowler and
I guess they decided Fowler was expendable. I like Benny Fowler.
I know you do.
And they just needed linebackers this week. I think that's what it's all about. And, it all depends on what you need at the moment. We'll get to the defensive injuries in a minute, but, you have to field a team. And they do have an excess in wide receivers. So that's where they cut.
Well, not to dilute this conversation, but do we need Well, all right. So,
do we need all those tight ends? No.
yeah, I was just gonna say one of the tight ends just got suspended for PEDs.
He was on the
Right?
practice squad, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many tight ends are on this team, but I mean, like,
And C.J. Conrad's not one of them,
yeah,
which is what I don't understand.
yes,
He was like one of the best guys in camp, and he's gone.
I don't get it. So we have
Bags
all
are
these
packed,
tight
and
ends.
he's back to wherever he lives in Kentucky or whatever, wherever he's from.
Well, I'm sure he's trying out for some teams, or he's out there working hard. But I'm still at a loss. Why we're cutting Shepard and Fowler and T.J. Jones?
Russell Shepard got hurt.
He got hurt. Correct.
He broke his foot, so he's gone. He's on IR. They haven't cut him yet. But Fowler and Jones were the guys to get cut. Tate is coming back. So you got Tate, Shepard, Latimer, Slayton. That's 4. You're 4 deep there.
And then Cody.
And Cody, yeah.
So I thought, hey, get rid of one of these journeyman tight ends we have because we've got a stockpile of them and keep a guy like Fowler.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just what they needed this week.
Yes.
The Ryan Connolly injury was so deflating.
Oh,
I couldn't enjoy the game when he went out. Because
I agree.
he's the brightest spot, in my opinion, on that defense right now.
Yeah. I would, if we're shifting into the defense conversation and,
We're all over the place today. There's just so much to talk about.
Yeah. And, and put a bow on it on the Tate thing is, the guy's a professional receiver. He's got to bring more to the table for the, he'll bring more to the table for the Giants on offense. And it probably will open up Ingram a little bit.
Yeah. Teams are realizing that Ingram is a serious threat. So they're going to be looking to maybe put 3 eyeballs on him. And that'll definitely, you can't do that when you have to cover a Tate and a Shepard. That's going to be difficult for defenses to do. And when you have a quarterback that gets 5 seconds to throw a lot, he got out of a 2-sack situation.
2 sacks. Yep.
And that's when he ran for that 16 yards and dove head first foolishly. But
so did you see the video of Evan Ingram blocking Ryan Kerrigan and Evan Ingram's mic'd up?
I didn't see that yet, no.
Oh, you got to see it. Okay, so this past week against the Redskins, I'm not sure if it's an NFL Films thing or or just an NFL thing, but they have they got Ingram mic'd up, right? And the 2 things that stuck out to me was they got him talking to Gallman, and he's like, "I love you, man." He's like, "Don't get too high, don't get too low. I got faith in you, make it happen." So he's there, as a cheerleader and supporting his teammates, right?
Yes.
But the second piece of video is, and we all know how Ryan Kerrigan has wrecked the Giants pretty much the last 4 or 5 years.
He's wrecked a lot of other teams too, but specifically the Giants.
Yes. So Ingram and him are going at it. It's not really it's an off tackle run, and Ingram's on the end blocking Kerrigan. Ingram's kind of got him like in a stalk block, right? And Kerrigan turns around and goes, "Hey, man, your blocking's gotten really good." And he goes, "Trying, man. I'm trying." He goes, No, I noticed. He said, and he's like, "I noticed, man." He's like, "Good job, man. Good work." He's like, "I'm trying, man." So, like, even his peers are noticing that Ingram is putting in the work.
And that just illustrates what a good kid, he's not a kid anymore, Kerrigan, because when he was drafted, after draft, I interviewed him one-on-one, and I thought that he was a fit for the Giants. He'd be a fit for any team when you think about it. And I was impressed. What a nice kid he was. And I could see him saying that to an opponent. But I wouldn't want to be running with a football and getting chased by him.
No. He's got a little J.J. Watt in him,
Yeah, not as big, but
Yeah, and he's not and for a huge guy, Watt's pretty mobile.
Oh man.
But I just thought it was pretty cool because it was like, he was basically telling him, "Hey man, you come a long way." And Ingram thanked him. He's like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's essential that Ingram be able to play inline tight end. So he's going to be required to block because they just can't use him as a receiver. I mean, I thought they might go in that direction with him, but they don't want to. So if he's going to be on the field as an inline tight end and he can release, I mean, he's got the advantage right there because secondaries won't take him serious. They'll think he's into block.
Yep.
They won't be prepared for him to go out for a pass.
Well, Jason Witten made a living out of it for 16 years.
Absolutely.
You
Ingram's
get a little
lot more athletic than Jason Witten.
Oh, without a doubt.
A lot
without
more.
a doubt. Without a doubt.
And, we saw Witten fumble the other day. He's fumbled. He's been in the league 16 years. He's fumbled, I think, something like 30 times. So he fumbles twice a year. Oh, no, he fumbles twice every 2 years or something like that. That's what Al Michaels said. It's some ridiculous figure. But, now Ingram doesn't have that ball security issue, which is good.
Yeah, and Witten used to make a living out of that rub. He'd come in and rub off the, off the defensive end and roll out into a pass pattern. And, you could really use Ingram that way because he is really fast. I mean, if he catches that ball across the field, he's planting his feet and he's getting to the sideline and up the sideline. So it's happened now back-to-back games where, and by the way, I got to send it to you. He runs a great pattern during the game where he runs in. It's almost like a stop and go, but it's not vertical. It's horizontal. So he's coming across the field. He stops, and it looks like he's about to break out, but he stops and he goes the original way that the route was going, and the linebacker just completely buys the fake. So Ingram's game has gotten really good, and I'm glad because I gave him such a hard time for dropping all those balls. It's just really nice to see him just keep working and have the confidence because, as you said, when Tate gets here, I think Ingram's going to even get more balls.
They kind of lucked into him because if you look at that draft, that 2017 draft, the Broncos, I believe, took Garrett Bowles, who was a tackle. I think he was from Utah. And I think the Giants were looking at him. And Denver picked him 2 spots before, or 3 spots before. And Bowles, I just read the other day, they're considering him a bust now. So it works both ways. Sometimes you draft an Eric Flowers, and sometimes, you get saved when somebody else drafts an Eric Flowers in front of you.
Yeah.
So the Giants ended up taking Ingram, and I know he had a rough, beginning to his career. I mean, he's been productive, but now, he's the top tight end in fantasy. Him and Kelsey. He's even surpassed Zach Ertz.
Yeah, and that's good company to be in, right?
Absolutely. I mean, he's tough. If you want to play DraftKings or FanDuel, you're going to pay up for Evan Ingram because now he's a steady performer. He's going to have that big play. All you need is one big play, and your numbers obviously inflate.
Well, yeah, and like we've talked about earlier in the year, he's basically a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So, if you get him the ball, he's got 4.4, 4.5 speed in space. He's going to outrun, probably 8 out of 10 linebackers.
When he gets past the line of scrimmage and he gets into the secondary, he's the biggest guy out there. And he could also be the fastest at the same time. So the Giants have to find ways to free him up. He'll always, he can shake a linebacker like you just said. And then once he gets past that, he's got to stay in the middle of the field because it's very easy for safeties and cornerbacks to push you out of bounds. That's not a size thing. Stay in the middle of the field, stay on the hash marks, and go up the field. It's going to be hard for them to bring them down.
Well, it's interesting you say that because right now, if you start, looking at the game plan, they're not using him in a vertical route.
Yeah, they need to start doing it.
Yeah, that's the old Shockey, Bavaro up the seam route. They're not using them that way. Just because I'm with you. He stands a lot better chance of making plays in the middle of the field at that kind of size and speed. But right now, the Giants are using him in a horizontal game. He's rubbing, he's rolling,
That's
dragging.
yeah, I don't like that. See, I like the tight ends and receivers that wear out the secondary, like a batter wears out a pitcher by fouling off pitches.
Yeah.
Just keep guys on the field. Unless you need to get out of bounds to stop the clock, keep them on the field and make the secondary work.
Well, it also comes down to remember that and we laugh about it all the time about a square peg in a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
He just might not be that guy. Because, listen, regardless of what kind of career Ingram has, he's not Shockey. You know what I mean? He's not Bavaro. I'm not really sure that Ingram's a hash mark, run the cornerback over kind of guy. So I think, and I'll give Shula some cred here because I'm not a big Shula fan, as you know, but
right.
They're using him to his advantage. They're using his ability, where it's right currently today, as in 2-2, Ingram's being used the correct way. So I really can't complain that he's not running the seam routes because right now across the middle and up the sidelines working. So
right.
If it, same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But just to give people perspective about the three tight ends, because I've been around all three of them in my career, Shockey's the biggest. Okay, he's the biggest guy. And then comes Bavaro. Bavaro is a little smaller than Shockey. Shockey is faster than Bavaro was, but not as fast as Ingram. But Ingram's only about, I'd say he's about my size. He's about 6'3", 240.
Yep.
And we're shaped differently. I mean, he's obviously more muscular than I am, but I'm almost 60 years old. But he's the fastest. He runs like a track star.
Yes.
When you see him run, the way his gait is, sometimes you see a tight end run with the football. They run like a tight end. Ingram runs like a running back.
Yeah, I say tight ends, they run angry.
Yeah, they ramble. I mean,
yep.
Ingram, he scampers. It's different.
Yeah.
He's a different type of player. So when you see him in practice, you see how fast he is. He can run with anybody. His problem in the beginning, like we said, was hanging on to the football. He gets separation, a lot of separation. Because, if they have him running those horizontal routes, there's no linebacker that's going to be able to, lean on him, wear him out, unless the ball's thrown behind him. If you lead him on a pass, there's no way anybody's going to defend that.
And it's funny because they have him listed at 240. I just don't see him at 240.
Yeah, he's about that. He's muscular. Yeah.
Because he's 2 inches shorter than Shockey.
Right.
Shockey was 6'5", 252.
Right.
He's definitely 12 pounds lighter than Shockey. Just, I always strikes me as he's more lean,
Yeah, he doesn't look as big for some reason. Ingram, maybe the shoulder pads. They don't wear the big shoulder pads anymore. Like in Bavaro's day, were wearing the pretty big shoulder pads. So guys look bigger. Now they don't wear the big shoulder pads. You know how the equipment's evolved.
Yep.
But still, I think that he could end up setting records for the Giants. Those two guys are going to be tough to beat, but, they have to feed him the ball. And like I said, they got to get him deeper down the field. They can't let him keep doing the catch and run thing. He's good at it, but, I'd like to see him get out in space a little more.
Well, let's move on the
Well, I don't want to get off the offense yet because I wrote a good Daniel Jones article today based on Brian Bollinger's tweet.
Okay, bring it.
Okay, let me get to it. It's on GiantsWire.usatoday.com. And it says, Baldy Breakdown, Giants Daniel Jones is a third down machine by John Fenley, who's been covering the Giants, I guess, for 30 years. Something like that. When Eli was starting, The Giants on third down, 2 for 11 against Dallas, 3 for 12 against Buffalo. All right? That's a combined 21.74% conversion rate on third down. You don't win like that. You know? Since Jones has taken over, they're 14 for 26 on third down. That's 53%. You do win with that.
Yes.
Okay? And then Baldinger has the Danny Dimes highlights, which I guess he's allowed to tape with his phone and put on a tweet. You know, because he works for them, I guess.
I was going to say, remember, Baldinger has been working for NFL Films for a while.
Yeah, I guess they want him to do that.
Yeah, and it's actually literally like, I don't know, about 4 miles from my house. NFL Films.
Oh yeah, the South Jersey plant.
Yeah, so they have like it looks like a college campus almost, you know.
That's where they have everything stored too, right? All the old reel-to-reel films.
Correct. So they've got a whole wing. It's very hard to see from the road because it's basically like, you know, all tree lined. But you can see they've got huge satellite dishes, you know, bringing in feeds, and then they've got a whole, you know, wing where all the old film is, you know, temperature stored. And
you think they would convert that to digital at some point? I'm sure they're working on that, right?
I was saying, I'm sure it is. You know,
that's what the Academy, you know, the Motion Picture Academy has been doing for years.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure they're moving all that stuff that you know, they did in the 60s and stuff, and even probably earlier. All that stuff's being converted to digital. But Baldinger is definitely, I quote him at least once a week, Baldinger is the best at breaking down the film. And it's like literally when the game's over, he's breaking it down. Like,
and you know why he loves to do Daniel Jones breakdowns?
Duke.
That's right. That's right. He's a Duke guy. So, you know, he's like really excited about Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
But in this, to get to the highlights that he puts up there, about with Jones, if you look at the third downs, I mean, Jones is unflappable. This guy's coming right at him, right into his face, and he's just standing his ground and making the throw.
Yep.
You know, what rookie does that? That's the thing that you know, usually a rookie is like, I got to get out of here. I got to tuck the ball in. No, he stood there.
Well, you know, I think if you start breaking down like who Daniel Jones is, right? The guy played 4 years, right?
Yeah.
He's got more experience than the rookie QB that's bailing out, because these guys are playing with, you know, Haskins, Murray. They're playing with 1 year experience. Their other experience is high school. Okay, so Daniel Jones, from a perspective of experiences, he gets it. He knows what he needs to do. He's also a very even-keeled guy. You know, he's not getting excited or he's not getting happy feet. He understands that the linemen are doing their job, and he's got to stand in there. And when you're a young guy, you got something to prove. So you're not going to bail out on your team. You're going to stand in there and make the hard throw. And right now, the offensive line is the best overall unit we have.
And the escaping of the sack, of the 2 sacks on the one play.
Yeah, then you throw in the fact that he's extremely mobile.
Eli's obviously done that because it's the most famous play in Giants history. But this kid looks like he could do it a lot more than Eli could.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something right now while we're on the air. Ryan Dunleavy of NJ.com. Do you know Ryan?
I've never met him personally, but yeah, of course I know him.
Yeah, I think I met him once, but he's out at camp, and he just tweeted a video of Saquon Barkley. Okay, it's Thursday, running full speed and cutting at practice. They're indoors because it's raining today, and it looks like there's nothing wrong with him. How is that possible? Now, I don't think he plays Sunday against the Vikings, but I don't know if in New England on next Thursday he could play.
See, okay, this is just
that possible?
Well, again, this is just my opinion. My opinion is there's no shot that they would force him back on a Thursday night game. Like, it's
that's
awesome.
What I'm thinking. But
Well,
he's
think about
forcing their hand. It looks like.
Well, again, I think this is just my opinion. Was we knew he wasn't going to play, of course, against Washington, right?
Right.
We know he's not going to play against Minnesota, right?
Right. I wouldn't play him. No.
Correct. But here's the thing. It's a short week, right? So he basically gets to cut a week off his recovery time because there's no Sunday game.
Correct.
Right? So there's, in my mind, so if I pull up a calendar, in my mind, so let's see. So the Thursday name, so he should be back on October 27th, the latest.
Right. He should
Because this Sunday,
no, he should probably play the 20th when Arizona comes in. I think
Correct.
he could be ready for that game.
Correct. There's no chance he plays on Thursday because it's a short week. Why rush that, right? So,
And if the Giants beat the Vikings, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. If they somehow beat the Vikings, and the Vikings have a lot of issues right now.
Yes, they do.
At quarterback.
Yes.
And at wide receiver, because Stephon Diggs didn't come to practice again.
Yeah, there's the rumor that they're looking to trade him.
They say they're not looking to trade him. He doesn't want to be there anymore. And, I don't know what the root of the issue is. I haven't really gotten, into it yet. But Kirk Cousins has not been bringing it this year. And that's why they're running the ball more.
Yeah, and one of my favorite receivers in the NFL right now is Thielen, Adam Thielen. I mean,
if you look at his route tree, because you go to next gen stats.
Yeah.
Cousins only has 11 plays, 11 completions over 20 yards.
Okay.
And when you have receivers like that, that's terrible.
I was a little shocked that Thielen, who's like, again, everybody raves about how good a guy this guy is,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just a team guy. He's busted his butt to get where he is. I was a little surprised that he kind of came out and gave a little dig to the offense after the game on Sunday.
Well, they all have escalators in their contracts. He's only got 15 catches in 4 games.
Yeah, which is not like him.
He's like, I need 100 catches, to make $500,000.
Yep.
Probably has a wife breaking his chops. No, I'm serious. Yeah. I mean, you see guys like that. It happens in baseball all the time. A guy doesn't play on a game, and somebody says, "Hey, I got to play."
Yeah.
I got to get 200 hits or whatever. Same thing with football. I mean, these guys haven't been producing, and it's not their fault.
Listen. For whatever reason, Kirk Cousins isn't the guy. I know he had, he was throwing the snot out of the ball at Washington and going downfield. I don't know if he just got, we can always say the same thing about when a guy gets paid, he takes his foot off the gas. I mean, Cousins got paid. I don't know what the issue is.
I don't know even if he had his foot on the gas, how good he is.
That too, because he didn't win in Washington. But,
right.
Minnesota's got a real nice team. I mean, you got Dalvin Cook, you got a great defense.
As Colin Cowherd said the other day, they have a Super Bowl roster. They're just missing the quarterback. If you put Russell Wilson on the Vikings, you can't do that. But
John, if you put Russell Wilson on a lot of teams,
I'm just saying. But let's say Andy Dalton.
No.
He's a better thrower, better passer.
I don't know. I can't.
Anybody.
Right
now, Cousins isn't doing a job. Last week he got sacked 6 times by the Bears. Of course, they couldn't move the football. I don't know what to say, but he may get healthy this week because there's a stat that I was looking at before. Completion percentage on the Giants secondary. It's funny. So you want to cry. Janoris Jenkins, completion percentage against him, 61.3%. And I don't care if he was NFC Defensive Player of the Week last week. There was no receivers for him to cover. They had the C team out there.
Yeah.
Baker has been playing better. But out of 16 targets, he's given up 12 receptions. But think about that. He's played every game, and he's only gotten 16 targets.
Baker.
So what does that tell you? He's pretty much doing his job. He's covering his guy.
Yep.
Because, you're not going to throw to a covered guy, we assume. So I think Baker is playing well now, and Jenkins made some plays last week, so hopefully, the coverage situation is taken care of. And, of course, Peppers had a decent game.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're sliding into the defense. Remember...
Yeah, I'm sorry, because we're
we're
moving along here.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, we're the Giants guys. We're allowed to do what we want. Dalvin Cook is a good running back, right?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
The Bears shut him down to only 35 yards rushing last week.
Yeah.
So then, you got to open up the offense and start throwing the ball down the field. My fear this week would be is that the Giants are, I don't even know if the word extremely thin does it justice, but extremely thin at linebacker. So, if you need a pass rush and you need to stop the run. I mean, right. I can't see the Giants stopping Dalvin Cook to 35 yards like the Bears did, but you're going to get beaten in both phases of the game.
I think that this week, I don't think Ogletree's going to play, because why would he? Hamstring is not a 1-week thing. But I do think that Tay Davis is going to play. And the kid that they picked up off the street a couple of weeks ago, David Mayo.
Played well.
Yeah, he led the team in tackles. Him and Conley actually played well together.
Yep, I agree with that too.
And
they brought what's his name up from the practice squad.
Oh, Taiufa.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite Giant. But will they dress him? That's the kick.
That I haven't seen anything about him dressing yet.
Look, he led the team in tackles in preseason, and he was all over the field.
Yep.
I think the problem with him is he's a little light, but so is Tay Davis. I would love to see him get out there and make some plays. Everybody's going to say, wow, he looks like Palomalo. Yeah, I know. Well, Palomalo was a safety. He wasn't a linebacker.
Yeah, and we had Unga, remember?
No. Please.
So we've had a lot of Polynesian guys before,
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing new, but I think this kid is going to be a good player.
I was surprised that he got, let go and re-signed?
Well, he didn't make the 53, and they signed him on the practice squad. He's been on the practice squad since, the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like you said, 15 minutes ago man, I was so excited about Connolly and, about his play. I mean, this guy literally came into camp. First of all, I talked to a guy who watched him a lot in college, right? And I said, I'm not really sure he's got the lateral movement. He looks a little stiff in the hips. And this is after the Senior Bowl. And the guy told me that I was talking to on Twitter said he was playing with a torn groin. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, if he's that good with a torn groin, I'm like, okay, maybe this kid can play. And I was really excited that, he just learned the defense. He worked his way up the depth chart. And then you put him on the field in week, through 4 games. I think you said earlier he was he was a person to be excited about. To see him get an injury and then a non-contact injury, even worse, you're like, oh, man, that just sucks. And, he's out for a year. And then, of course, you need Ogletree. So now your 2 guys that call the defense are out. Who calls the defense now?
Well, that'll be Davis if he plays, and I think he will. Because he's done it before.
Yeah. So you're a little thin at linebacker, and I don't know. Again, Dalvin Cook gets going, it could be a long day.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen. B.J. Hill hasn't really been piling up the stats.
No.
But he's been doing a great job sealing off the edge and, winning on the line of scrimmage. So, he's a man. Lawrence is playing a lot better. He's getting a good surge in the middle.
Yeah, I thought he's had back-to-back good games. You're definitely starting to see him get a little mojo going.
Tomlinson, another guy, kind of quiet.
Very quiet.
They need to, he's doing his job, but they need to make plays, though. You need to have some playmakers up front. And then if you look at the stat sheets, they don't make a lot of plays. Okay? They're clogging holes. Okay? They're sealing off the edge. They're doing a good job against the run. They're not getting a lot of pressure on the passer. And they need to make tackles. You can't have your back seven making all your tackles. You got to make some tackles. Let's start to see that happen. That's when the defense will really be good. I think the secondary's starting to straighten out. Peppers, I still have no idea what he does. I mean, he had a decent game against Washington, but I just have this feeling he's out of position a lot.
Well, here's something that's really super interesting. You ready?
Okay.
I am not, you well know, and I've had disagreements with them wholeheartedly about everything they report with, PFF, and I'm not a stats guy. Like, just, you can recognize a ball player, right?
Yes.
But for this conversation, because some of our listeners love stats and analytics, I'm going to read you off really quick. Let's say I'll do top 10 defensive tackles, okay? Just right. Who's actually making plays? Who's making tackles? Do you know who leads the tackles for the New York Giants?
Tell me.
Janoris Jenkins.
Right. That's not a good sign.
Nope. Bethea's 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again,
safety's fine.
And it depends on how you read the stat, combine or solo. But your tackling leaders are Jenkins, Bethea, Peppers, Connolly, Baker, Ogletree, even though he's missed a game, Haley, Carter, and Golden. I mean, but if we look at the numbers, right, it's really Jenkins, Bethea, Peppers, and Connolly. Like they're holding down majority of your tackles. And then you get a little bit where you were talking about a minute ago, B.J. Hill. B.J. Hill has 14 tackles, right? So, okay, he's doing a good job. I mean, Mayo had 9 tackles last week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so some of these players need to step up and make plays.
I'd just like to see a little more playmaking out of the three in front. The front
agreed.
Three.
I'd actually like to see R.J. McIntosh get on the field more to see what he can do.
Yeah. Yeah, and you might see that. Olsen Pierre's a little banged up, so you might see, a little more McIntosh.
Yeah, I mean, Pierre's got 2 tackles. I mean, so, the Giants' defense against the Vikings have to think run first, right? Because Cousins is struggling. And on the back end, I'm sure hopeful that, like I said, Haley bonked out on 2 plays that would have been 2 touchdowns. So I'm hoping they're making adjustments because I don't know if Diggs will play, but if he does, Diggs and Thielen will burn you pretty heavily.
Yeah. That is if they throw deep. I think they've been trying to keep their offense. They have like a truncated route tree. They're not even sending them out deep, and I think that was Thielen's problem. So, and of course, Diggs, he's got an issue. I guess it's pretty much the same issue.
And by the way, I correct myself. It was the other way around. Bethea leads the team in tackles. Jenkins is second.
And Jenkins has 5 passes defensed, which is pretty good because they've been picking on him. Tampa Bay went right at him, and last week, Washington went at him. Like I said, that's a good sign because Baker must be doing his job. I mean, I haven't looked. I don't have the what is it? The All-22.
Yeah.
I don't have that this year, so I haven't been able to look at it. But some of the other guys are telling me, hey, Baker's been doing good. He's straightened out. He's leveled off. He's playing aggressive style. He's fronting the receivers, which is what he does, and he can just run with anybody. He's a lockdown guy. He can't be playing 10 yards off the line of scrimmage and as the play unfolds, start to switch men because he gets lost. And there's no communication there. They really have to put him on a guy and leave him there.
Well, and to complement the other side, if Haley doesn't figure it out this week, I'm assuming you're going to start seeing some Julian Love getting some snaps.
He's got to play. I mean, he didn't dress. I mean, I don't
Yep.
understand what's going on, but he was very active in camp and in the preseason, and now the season comes and he's in street clothes.
Yeah, well, again, if Haley has another game like he did last week, I could see Love getting in the game. Yeah. And then the pass rush is slowly starting to get there, too. I mean, Zimenez has got, 2 sacks, 10 tackles, right?
Yeah.
And Golden's got 14 tackles and 3.5 sacks. That's not spectacular, but at least,
it's something. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I go back to the last couple of years. I mean, you basically got 3 tackles a game out of on an average from Vernon. 3 tackles a game from Vernon, and it took him, I don't know, 6 weeks to finally get over an injury, and the guy averages 7 sacks a year. Right. Golden's in 4 games. Golden's already halfway to Vernon's stats.
Yeah, no, I have no issue with Golden. I think he's playing pretty well. He's got a lot of pressures, a lot of QB hits, so he's doing well. I mean, the thing is they're rotational. I'd like to see these guys be on the field, especially, Minnesota doesn't throw as much, but like Tampa Bay throws a lot. I would like to see him on the field more, and we didn't see him on the field that much. But this week, I think you're going to look. Cook is going to be the guy they're going to be looking to stop.
Yeah. Otherwise, they're going to get burned.
Right. They need to. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's just a talented runner. He had injury issues the first 2 years he was in the league. Now he's healthy. I think I don't know if he leads the league. Him and McCaffrey are almost, I think they're 1 yard apart in rushing. So the Giants have to contain him. They got to actually make Cousins beat them when you think about it. And hopefully they can get to him, and he'll make mistakes because he always does. And that's how they'll be able to win this game.
Well, the Giants right now are -5 in turnover ratio. Okay, the Vikings are even at 0.
Right.
So I mean the turnover matchup is going to be interesting. You know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of margin there. I mean, so the Giants give fumbles. I mean, look, the rookie QB Jones is going to throw his interceptions.
He's had 2 turnovers in each game, and he should have had more.
Correct. I mean, I'm having Eli as a QB over the years, there's going to be some interceptions. So, but the fumbles are not acceptable. And then on the defensive side, you need turnovers. You need
got to create. Yeah, you got to create.
Yep, you need sacks. You need fumbles because they have to at least break even. You know what I mean? Like you can't give away the ball with interceptions and fumbles,
Very true.
The defense not come up with turnovers. It's always a turnover game. So, and that starts with, making the quarterback uncomfortable and rushing throws and having guys like Peppers and Jenkins pick it off. So, it'll be interesting because, like I said, I'm assuming this week Cousins is going to, he had to come out in the public and apologize for last week. And
what was he apologizing for?
I don't know. Like I told you, Thielen came out.
He was getting creamed.
Well, that's the sad part of it is Thielen came out and said something which was out of character for him, and Cousins evidently felt bad, and he apologized to the in the press. But he was getting his butt kicked by because his line wasn't blocking. But the reason why I bring it up is this week is you should let Cousins beat you or attempt to let Cousins beat you because he's got a ton of pressure on him right now. I don't know who the backup quarterback is in Minnesota, but if he stinks, he may get yanked. So, he's got a ton of pressure on him to produce this week, Cousins. So I'm hoping that, the defense dials up something good for him.
Yeah, they got to put pressure on him. I think they've had success. When he was with Washington, they had success against him. So those 2 teams have changed, obviously. The Giants have changed completely since he was a Redskin. in 2 years. I mean, how many guys are left from 3 years ago on the Giants
Nope.
roster? Not a lot.
No, like what? Like, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 guys
Yeah, a few more than that, but not many.
from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You got Diassi, Jenkins.
Yeah, probably about 10.
Yeah.
So
The offense, by the way, for the Vikings is averaging 21 points a game, which ranks 20th.
but that was early in the season. They played Oakland, who can't play defense. I think they also played, who else did they play? Indianapolis or somebody. They played some weak defenses, and they looked good. And a lot of it was driven by Cook.
Well, they're averaging, from the running game, they're averaging 155.2 yards per game.
Okay.
And, overall. So if they can find a way to stop Cook and try to make Cousins beat him, the Giants could, pull an upset off.
Yeah. They're 5.5-point underdogs, the Giants, at home. And a lot of people are saying that's too many points. You can't give Daniel Jones 5.5 points. That's the line a gambler came up with the other day.
And I just pulled up the article from Michael Stewart, one of our writers at nygiantsrush.com. He says the Vikings defense is ranked 5th in points, allowing 15.8, and they've been equally tough against the run, 94.2, and the pass, 218. That's amazing. You're only giving up 218 points a game through the air. So they got their work cut out for them.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good game. Looking forward to it. I'd just like to see a win. I'm not sure, the Giants are going to explode points-wise. Like I said, against Washington, they had a rough time with their front. Minnesota has a very good front. They have some guys, Daniel Hunter and, Everson Griffin. They still have Linval Joseph.
Ex-Giant.
Yeah, and, they've got a good defense. And they've got a good safety in Harrison Smith. So it's going to be a tough game. But Shermer has been writing up a pretty good game plan. And Jones, if he can just escape a few times, especially with Tate coming into the lineup now, I think the Giants have an extra dimension. And they could win this game. They definitely can cover that 5.5 points.
Yeah,
definitely.
I agree wholeheartedly, and especially if they don't turn the ball over. You can't have 4 turnovers a game.
No, they have to cut down on that. And Jones is realizing that. He had a couple of picks dropped last week. People are forgetting that. If you remember, Washington had their hands on a few of his passes, and they didn't hang on, at least 2. So let's hope that doesn't happen. I don't like to see him get picked off. When he threw those interceptions in back-to-back series, after the game, he knew exactly what he did wrong. He knew exactly. So a lot of young quarterbacks are going to say, I don't know what happened, right?
Kid's a smart kid.
Yeah.
A
lot of times after the game, I don't know what happened. I have to look at the film. He don't have to look at the film. He said right away, I knew. I threw that one behind him. Should have got rid of it earlier. And the other one says the first guy was covered. He shouldn't have thrown it at all.
So just so you know, in case it happens, Kirk Cousins' backup is Sean Mannion. So
right,
they're not
Mannion.
They're not going to the backup QB.
They don't want Mannion out there, no.
They're definitely not going there.
They don't want to do that. They don't even want Cousins out there. They're probably kicking themselves for that fully guaranteed contract. I think, was it 80-something million? The Jets had actually offered more and he turned it down.
Well, nobody wants to play for the Jets.
Apparently not.
I don't even know why Bell went to the Jets. I can't figure that one out.
He's probably scratching his head right now, too. Said I should have sat out this year, too.
Seriously. So.
All right, so that's all I got. We have a short week after this Vikings game, so we're going to have to figure out how we're going to do another show, but we can do that. Hopefully Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we'll get something going. The Giants guys will not disappoint.
No, we won't. We never do. So, You have anything you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, just again, always is just check out the site. We brought a new writer on actually this week. Ta-da! We brought on Jeff Pilgrim, and he's got himself a new feature called The Turning Point. So he's gonna break down every Sunday's film on what the turning point of the game was, and then he's gonna write about it. And he did a really nice job this week. His first article, Jones extends the play. He breaks down that 3rd and 13 scramble,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
Is that the one where you lose the sacks?
Yeah, he pulled it. He pulled a ghost to Eli, and he scrambled and rolled. You know, of course, as we mentioned earlier, my man's got to learn to slide. But so we did bring on a new writer, Jeff Pilgrim. Welcome to the family. And then of course our regular guys like Michael Stewart and Spiro and Mike B are out there. So, and you can always reach me at NY Giants Rush on Twitter. More than glad to, conversate, as they would say, on Twitter.
And you can find me in print at the Giant Insider. I'm not on the Giant Insider podcast with Jerry and Chris, but
that's because we have our own show.
That's right. We had a show first. And then Jerry and Chris got their own show. But that's fine.
We are way more. Listen, they're good guys. Love them to death. We are way more entertaining.
You think so?
I do. I think we're way more entertaining.
But back to the Giant Insider. If you look at, I have a feature in every, a feature or two in every issue. And I also do the game recap and all the statistics for that. So I do a lot for those guys. And it's a great magazine. There's some other really talented writers in there. Some fans who write articles for them as well. It's the best Giant magazine. If you're a Giant fan, you just got to get it. So it's only in print. There's no digital. You can get it in digital form, but there's no website. So just go to the Giant Insider and on Google that, and you'll be able to order that. Also, Giants Wire on USA Today. We do about 10, 12 pieces a day between myself, Dan Benton, and a few of the other guys. So there's a lot of Giants information. I mean, we don't miss anything. So, we do this every day. So we're doing Giant stuff every day.
And if you, by the way, have questions for the Giants guys, send them in. You're willing to challenge me on Twitter pretty much every day, all day long.
And people do challenge you.
Yes, they do. And I love all my followers, and I love people that read nygiantsrush.com. We don't have as much resources as John and his crew does, but we try to turn out all original stuff. We're not regurgitating stuff that the beat writers are writing,
yes.
So it's original stuff. But John and I are here every week for you guys. If you have questions, just tweet them out and say, hey, here's a question for the Giants guys or the show, and we'll answer your questions.
Yes. One more thing I forgot. An article I wrote today, Giants Vikings related.
Okay.
The original trade for Fran Tarkenton, and then the trade back to Minnesota. You may be a little bit before your time.
It's funny you say that. I had a guy sitting next to me in the stadium.
Crazy days.
Right. Well, I had a guy ask me literally this weekend about Fran Tarkenton. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, he came from the Vikings, but we traded him back. And that was just something that I had read years ago. So,
well, he was here for 5 years. It wasn't like they turned him right around. No.
I just meant like in football world, it just always feels like he played a whole lot more in the Viking uniform than a Giant uniform.
Well, he did. He played 5 years for the Giants and 13 for Minnesota. He started with the Vikings from the very beginning of the franchise. They traded him, I think, 6 years in. Then he played 5 years with the Giants, and they traded him back to Minnesota, and then he went to 3 Super Bowls. Lost them all.
Yeah,
he was the MVP of the NFL in 1975. I mean, the guy was a great player. But with the Giants, they actually had some good seasons with him. 7-7. I mean, 7-7 is pretty good, considering.
Yeah, 14-game schedule back then.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had one winning season, then they had a couple of losing, but they were competitive with him, and he was fun. He was Fran the Scrambler, the mad scrambler. He'd run all over the place, and You know, he was good. He was a very good player. But then they traded him back because, you know, the team around him started to crumble. They traded him back to Minnesota. They got Norm Snead. I don't know if you know that name. And Snead became an all-pro with the Giants in 72 at quarterback. The Giants, I think, were 8-6, and they just missed the playoffs in 72. So, and then after that, they didn't have another winning season for a decade. But those days I remember clearly. I mean, those were fun teams. You know,
They're a little before me, my friend. A little before me.
But that was the last time they were competitive. Then in the 70s, they just went into the tank. They were terrible. One of the players they got back, or one of the draft picks they got back when they traded Tarkenton back in 72 was turned into be Brad Van Pelt.
Yep, which was one of the best linebackers they've ever had.
Yeah, so, you know, it's not like they gave Tarkenton away. They got some players back. So that's all I have to say. Until next week, it's the Giants, guys, and we'll see you then. Thanks for listening.